Hello, everyone, and welcome back to For St. Pete's Sake. My name is Christian Hotchkiss. I'm the president of the Stonewall Democrats of Pinellas County. This is the official podcast where we deep dive into everything Democratic political here in Pinellas County, the state of Florida, and beyond. I am joined, as always, by my lovely co-host and Vice President, Laura Gerken. Laura, how are you?
I'm doing well, Christian. Thank you. It is, I've got a really busy weekend, but I'm super excited for it because I think one of my friends said we're supposed to have like a cold front come through. So like I'm ready to get like pumpkin spiced up. You know what I mean? Like maybe have a hot pumpkin spice instead of my iced pumpkin spice. So yeah.
Got to switch it up. Yes, absolutely. It might be a little bit rainy, too, this weekend. So whatever you're doing, just make sure you pack like maybe a jacket or something.
Oh, good thinking. Thank you, friend. Thank you.
We also have a special guest today. I'm pretty excited. I love this lady. She is so fantastic in the Pinellas County area. She's an advocate, a leader, community organizer. She's just an absolutely wonderful person. Please welcome Carla Bristol. Carla, hi.
Hello, and thanks for sharing about the temperamental weather that is Florida.
Yes. Yes, we always got to be prepared for everything down here. All right, Carla, how are you doing? We want to get to know you a little bit more, so I want to open the floor up to you and let you introduce yourself, give a little bit of your background, and introduce
Sure.
yourself to our audience.
So I'm Carla Bristol. It's important that you know I'm the mother of two. I have a son that's going to be 29 on Monday, October 13th. My daughter is going to
The
be
day after my
21.
birthday, or the day
Huh?
before my birthday,
When is your birthday?
October 14th. I'll be 30.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So, yes, I could be your mama. So, as my firstborn, and then my daughter is going to be 21 at the end of this year. I always like people to know that I'm a mother. Both my children were born here in Florida, but here in St. Petersburg, more specifically. Although I was born in South America, in Guyana, raised in Brooklyn, New York, and been here now for 29 years. So, all of these I'm a 56, almost 57-year-old woman. And all of these things, all of these experiences shape me. I currently run a youth-led initiative called St. Pete Youth Farm. But Christian, you couldn't have said it more accurately. I'm really passionate about my community, South St. Pete in particular. I'm passionate about young people. I'm passionate about the elderly. And when I go for something, I go hard. So, most people are like, Carla, slow down. We don't want to lose you. And it's like, we don't have time to slow down. This is the lifetime. I have a background in global sales. In 2014, I left corporate America to pursue what I'd rather be doing. At that time, I wasn't really sure what it was, but I knew it was centered in community. I opened an art gallery, and most people thought I must have been married to a drug dealer because how is this woman opening an art gallery in the middle of the hood? I mean, I found this stuff out later when the community trusted me enough to tell me. They said, "Girl, we were like, she must be married to a drug dealer because who opens a art gallery right in the middle of the hood?" And my saying is simple: when you go into Macy's, when you go into Bloomingdale's, when you go into Dillard's, anywhere you go, nobody actually checks you at the door to find out your credit score or your finances. So if you want people to have access, you actually provide access where people are. You don't expect them to come to you to get the access they need. So I really wanted kids in our community to have access to the same caliber of art that my own children have access to. And so one of the things I was passionate about at that time was ensuring that the Woodson Museum was not displaced. So as I kept fighting, sometimes you fight and you don't even know why you're fighting, right? So I had to wake up one day and say, what is it? Why am I taking time away from work? What am I doing? What do I hope the outcome will be? And what control do I have over that outcome? So I realized that I had some control in the form of advocacy, but I didn't have final control. So I said, if really the reason I'm fighting is to ensure that young people have access to art, then open up an art gallery. So it's open on the weekends only. And then, once I left corporate America, then it was open still only on the weekends. But, a lot of programming very similar to the work I'm doing now, but no one, not even me, could have imagined that I would be a farmer. So this is something that I could laugh about, I could cry about, but most importantly, ancestrally, it has given me a direct connection and a stronger understanding of my history, my heritage. And I think it really honestly comes full circle for me because, like earlier this week, I was literally juicing sugarcane that I grew. And I was trying to
Wow.
explain to the teens, like, do you even understand this? Like, I grew up eating sugarcane, but I didn't grow sugarcane. Like, now we're juicing sugarcane that we grew. This is like a big deal right here in South St. Pete. And, so I like those at those moments is when, and often I'm like, I'm glad it's me because I'm not a pushover. Everybody knows that. And even people, they just tell me all the time, they go like, it's you, so I'm sure it's gonna happen, sure I'm sure it's gonna happen. If she says it's gonna happen, and things that I want to happen yesterday. So that's how my
Wow.
brain, my activity, my energy moves. And I just think that if you're gonna do something and make it happen, I don't have another lifetime to do it in. And so I'm doing what I'd rather be doing right now. I'm good about being right here talking to y'all right now and being able to share how I'm shaping young people in South St. Pete for 2070 or 70 years from today. So that's what I'm doing.
Absolutely. That's incredible. I love to hear it. And especially, it's important, I feel like, to have this in South St. Pete because there's such a food desert in South St. Pete that not many people are aware of unless you actually live down there. And I lived there. I actually lived just a few blocks over from where your youth farm is. I was on 12th Street South and 18th Avenue. And so there's just nothing there except for a Dollar General right there on 18th, and that's it. So
Very good
yeah,
for you,
I
Solar.
really important that you have it there.
Hmm. Yeah. Christian, I will say that one of my least favorite words that I've heard since I've been doing this work is this whole concept of a food desert. I believe in rural communities in America, this exists, but in places like St. Petersburg, what we struggle with is actually access to nutritious food. So there is food, and we clearly have demonstrated that we can grow food. I always say, even with the art galleries, access and opportunity. If we provide a community with access and we provide them with the opportunity to get what's needed, like it's so doable. So I think when I hear language like food desert, it's funding language, right? And if you and I don't know if you've ever
Mm.
gotten juice from Jug or many people in our community they're experts at growing food and they've grown it all the time. And like it's one thing for us to really have issues and challenges with corner stores and what they offer, but you and I were just talking a moment ago, we both drive Toyotas, right? And I don't have a car note. I don't even ever remember when I've ever had a car note, right? So I have a different level of access. So the corner stores, to me, it is convenient. So there are other challenges with it, but we can't throw away, as they used to say, the baby with the bathwater. We have to say, hey, for that mother who needs the diapers right now and doesn't have access, but really and truly, if I did the math, maybe 1.3 miles from that area is two Publixes, right? And then what's the name of the store? All these is up on 34th, not far. So, but it's more of an issue with access, opportunity, and nutrition, and being able to talk to how do we provide even a higher caliber of produce than what you can find and what they call USDA approved foods, or what they call organic.
Hmm.
Which, like we literally create the soil that grows the food that we grow for people. We 100%, there is nothing that I'm purchasing from the store. So I'm creating our own soil, and we're also creating our own fertilizer because we have a large enough fish farm at the farm. So teens are learning aquaponics with the work we're doing. and we're using the waste in order to fertilize every single thing we grow. So we are doing nutrient dense food right in the heart of where we're being told, like, you know, like you're almost wanting people to believe it's not doable, but it is very doable with the access and opportunity.
Yeah, and that's what's I think yeah, that's it's so funny is it is doable if you have like you said, if people are given the right tools. And I do think, the corner store thing is, it's for the situations where people, have or don't have a car and maybe they're, disabled in a way so they can only walk in a
Mhm.
certain amount of time and place or a certain distance. So, we do like, I'm totally agree, we need to be able to get those with healthier foods, but we need to have a better standard for what healthy food is, like, in the
Right.
US, like,
Yeah, yeah,
because
that's right.
yeah, my brother lives in Spain, and I
Mm,
was lucky enough to visit him, a couple years ago, and I know we went to an Aldi in Spain because
I
it's actually owned over there, and, when I tell you they literally had, like, fresh a hock of Iberian ham hanging there to, like, just, like, slice you off
mm,
as you ordered, and, like, the freshness and the wine was, all of, like, I think it was, like, the equivalent of, like, $4 for a
mhm,
gorgeous bottle of cava, which is, like, bubbly wine. So it's, like, it can be done if we have the proper standards and the proper, like, assistance to meet those standards, so we don't have to do this, like, factory farming too.
mhm. Correct. And well, I mean, right now, of course, in Florida, what we are seeing, right, based on all the deportation. Why are we getting into this so soon? Because why? Because why not? Because why not? We're seeing a lot of rotting fields, right?
Because
Because we're trying to deport
Yeah.
farmers, and that work is just sitting there undone. So it's what I mean. It's almost like for the work I do. I mean, I literally very early on called it like it's total social justice work in the sense that
Mhm.
to qualify that is what's important to me is not that I grow food. What's important to me is that I teach the community how to grow food and that we give out thousands of seeds, right? So for every and anything, we give away seeds. Because other
Mhm.
cultures have a value for seeds, understanding that we can have all the money. As we just saw with the hurricanes last year, it didn't matter your economic status. Matter of fact, the beachfront properties, people are still not even back home yet, right? What
Right.
mattered is if us living like me living in St. Petersburg, inside of Florida, in this peninsula, within the peninsula, we are vulnerable and we've gotten comfortable to
Yeah.
not remembering we're vulnerable. And being able to create true resilient sites that can assist people with after the storm, then what? So yeah, you have all
Mhm.
these truckloads of things that come in and so forth, but we have to be prepared to rebuild. And rebuilding is not just the physical structure; it is the ecosystem and it's our the food source. So if we're giving our seeds and trying to teach people that no, these are valuable. Hold on to these. We may need these. It's not about whether or not we can come to the farm. It's about whether or not we all know that we can now use the space that we have to grow something and then start learning how to be more community minded. And,
Mhm.
even if we delve into the word community and what that really means, what it really looks like, I mean, people are lost about what this stuff looks like. So I keep talking about building middle America right here in St. Pete. And so for me, what it means is if I have a bread oven, you got a bread oven. If we're baking bread, then there's gonna come a time before this year is out where I'm gonna say, hey, on Tuesdays, we've taught this many sourdough bread making workshops. If you've taken a sourdough bread making workshop and you want to make your bread, we'll bake it for you. Right. So you just bring your bread that you've made, we'll bake it. Now we're reducing your electricity at your house. And you're seeing that if I fire up the oven, I'm going to not only bake bread, I'm also probably going to bake cookies. I'm also going to have your bread baked. It's like if you have a grill, what's wrong with telling your neighbor I'm firing up the grill on Tuesday? You probably could cook the food for everybody on your entire block when we do that. So if we learn how to be better neighbors, and how to communicate and value the resources that we have and share them better, I mean, we'll be a lot more unstoppable. And we don't have to tie these to humanity. Let's just do that.
Yeah. Oh, you're so right because and I don't know if this was like a time capsule thing or if it was, a neighborhood thing, but like I've never been as an adult close to my neighbors the way I was growing up. And, growing up like that, like, yeah, but I was also the only kid in my neighborhood. So it's
Mhm.
like I had like the adults like bounced around and entertained me too. And I got to play with grandkids or whatever. So it's like we just don't have that socialness anymore, it
Mhm.
seems like, and I don't know
Yeah.
if but then again, I don't know if that applies to all communities anymore because I don't know like how COVID affected that too because like I was married in the suburbs for a while and gave that was boring, so I got over that. Um, and now I'm here in South St. Pete too, and it's just like I do see more of that down here, like
Mhm.
especially on, MLK down when you get past when you get down MLK. I love seeing like the Friday pop up like barbecues that are there and whatever. And so yeah, I think that's when I just love that you centered it in that, like, getting community back together because that is, like, recentering that because that I think is what a lot of us have lost and a lot of what this a lot of what a lot of people are craving, and it's coming out in, like, weird, vicious ways, but what they're really wanting is community.
Yep. And so we have about 80 some odd. I lose track. Like every month we have about anywhere between 7 to 9 events at the farm every single month that's open to the community. So community is building around mental health. For example, every single Monday we have community mental health and wellness, and that could look like anything from creating soap, so natural soap creations to natural candle making to a physical activity like strength training. Um, it could look like something we do call Healing Through Words, which is a writing workshop taught by local poets, authors, etc. Um, but all of that builds community because I'm watching how the people who come and recognize that we're holding space every single Monday for you, they begin. So
Mhm.
initially, there were all these people who had suffered a loss of a child. So first they started coming. And then people who started realizing, you know what? All I do is work and I wish I made more time for myself. They started coming, right? And then but it's open every single Monday and it's free. So that's the thing about for me, it's not just that we're doing it at no cost to you, and we're funding the cost of ensuring we have facilitators for the benefit of our community. And I think it's important to know that this stuff exists and people in other parts of Florida and other parts of the world, they are yearning right here what we're creating. So too often it's always when we look through history, it's usually always somebody who maybe wasn't born or raised someplace that has a greater appreciation for it than the people who might already be there trying to get out of it. And it's like, no,
Mhm.
this like I always call the farm magic. I say, I mean, we have wind chimes that sound like bells that you wish you could hear every day in all places with so much intention. Like how I talked about the sugar cane and being able to actually juice sugar cane and taste that or papaya or, just people being able to come together. Right now we're trying to do I forgot how many collard green seedlings so that if somebody, they did the ribbon cutting for the Obama Library, the main library,
Mhm.
the, but they're going to be doing a open house right on November 15th. So that open house, so that when people come to the open house, and I want everybody to be able to get a little a small collard green plant that they could plant in their yard, and hear about the okra story that our teens created over the summer. No, I don't know. Yesterday,
Yeah.
I think it was yesterday, a kid came. We also take teens who need court ordered hours. And this kid that came to me yesterday, and I said to him, I said, I really, really want to do a camp night in Charles Park. And I mean, he's only 14, and I mean, you should have seen his laughter. And I said, what are you laughing about? What's so funny? He said, man, you can't do that. He said, if you do that, you better bring all your guns or something with you, something like that, he said. And I said, what's
Mhm.
going to be funny is I'm going to do it. And I said, you're going to be out there with me. And he's like, I won't. I said, but you will. I said, and then you're going to say, man, this lady is something. But I remember since Irma, I talked about this is something that I wanted to do. And I said, and people were talking about Child's Park After Dark. And I was saying, if I like to camp, I just make the assumption that if other people don't like to camp, it's probably because they haven't experienced camping. And why wouldn't we camp where we live? So
Right.
we've done camping at the farm. And I definitely plan to do a camp night in Charles Park. It's going to happen.
I love it. I love it. And I'm loving this conversation already because you just answered like in just a little bit we've been talking, you've answered like the first three questions I had. Like one of them is, what does community empowerment look like to you? And this is exactly what it is. I mean, you are empowering these young kids
Hmm.
and you're teaching them something that's so valuable that's
Hmm.
oftentimes lost. I mean, if you really think about it, the bigger cities are getting bigger,
Hmm.
and rural America is unfortunately struggling, and a lot of that is getting lost. So I
Yeah.
think that the work you're doing is really, really vital.
Thank you,
Um,
Shan.
so absolutely. And what I wanted to ask you next is, you've worked with the youth and families across a variety of programs. What are some common misconceptions people have about the community you serve? What is it like about South St. Pete?
Mm. So for one of the biggest misconceptions I've seen is, who are these young people? Right? So
Mhm.
every single day for young people that work at St. P. Youth Farm, they have to actually, the first order of business for the day is to put a positive quote in the chat. And if I were to share with you, and sometimes I just post it on my page, these quotes are not coming from me. This is literally what young people are looking up and sharing. So even the young person that came to us yesterday that needed to do court ordered hours, one of the things I did for him is, right now his phone has been confiscated, so he doesn't have a phone. I said, here's my phone. Take a look at some of the quotes in here and share with me one of the quotes that you find interesting. And he did. It was a quote about, it's important to do big things, but many small things could also equal one big thing. And that was
Mhm.
a quote he picked. But it's as if every day they're being showered with positivity. Um, the the fact that I may have a young person come to me one day who is shy, would never in a million years be able to stand up on a stage and speak in front of a diverse group of people. And then what do you know? They're doing it. Um, so again, to me, it still ties down to access and opportunity. Being in an environment that challenges you, that pushes you. And so every young person that works with me, if I don't call them by their name, I call them sir or madam. So I may say, excuse me, sir, or sir, please come here. And when I'm giving that much respect as a 56, almost 57-year-old woman to a teenager, I just, it is clear that the requirement is respect in return. Um, so I think a big misconception is the fact that we all know kings and queens in Africa were 13, 14, 15, and yet we refuse to acknowledge that our young people are brilliant individuals. What I say is, I'll tell them, I may have 30 ideas, but you have the best ideas. So I want to hear them. Here's what I'd like to do, but what would you like to do? right? Here's some things that I think we should do, but I really want you guys to tell me because if not, the DNA will feel like Miss Carla, and I want it to feel like you, right? So,
Mhm.
I mean, more than anything else, I feel like, my job is to protect their voices, but to remind them that they have a voice and that it's important the way if they advocate with me, this translates to how they advocate in school, right? If you
Mhm.
get a B on a project that you think you deserve an A on, you go to the teacher and you say, I was expecting an A because I studied all night and I put in the work. Please let me know what I'm not getting so that I could learn it because my expectation for myself or for my family is that I'm an A student. You see what I mean? So it's very different than
Yeah.
overlooking. We do debriefings after every event so that I can learn and find out
Mhm.
what didn't work. And guess what? Most times, everything they tell me, it's 100% a different perspective on how I would have looked at it and therefore could have created a better experience. Like, for example, we just had wellness is my vibe at the farm, right? And on the debriefing, I said, what could have been done differently? We had a rotating schedule for for youth doing the welcome table, right? And
Mhm.
they were right. They said I should have had a written schedule, not just, oh, now it's time to
Mhm.
change. And so you two need to go here because now somebody might have been engrossed in a chess game. Right. So chess is
Right.
one of the things we had cornhole toss. We had shuffleboard at the farm. So in the middle of that, now it's like, nope, you two need to go here. So it's like, oh, that's fair. Yeah, I'll do that. That makes sense. Right. So I think a lot of young people are quiet because we don't show an interest in hearing what they have to say. And when we begin to show an interest, um, once they become comfortable, man, you're not going to be able to hush them up. And they're going to know you're not just saying, I want to hear it, but you're genuine in wanting to engage.
It's so true. I have a niece that's 20 and we are, really close and we have been since she's a little kid. I've made it through some years talking about Minecraft and things I did not understand
Uh-huh.
to people that but I was interested in her interests. Like context clued my way through it enough to like figure it out. But it just we have such a good relationship now and, have similar interests that we can share together because we've built that bond and like and that's what it is, seeing them as them an individual and like have and that they have their own experience in respecting that and like you said giving them when you lead with respect, they know that they have to they know intended to be received back. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And it goes back to just the community empowerment that you're doing with these young people, especially. It's so important, I feel like, nowadays with everything that's going on in the world.
Yeah.
And these young kids having to go through COVID and losing a lot of the social interactions and,
Hmm.
losing a lot of what they like life lessons, really. So that's really, really important. So again, I just want to say thank you for doing that work. It's really, really appreciated.
Thanks,
Um,
Christian.
do you have any, like, one specific or a few moments that reaffirmed your work, reaffirmed your purpose in doing this work? Or is it just like an everyday thing when you see these kids doing and.
It's a combination of both. Definitely. So, y- let's see. Yesterday, I could say yesterday in and of itself. I think yesterday was the day that we was yesterday the day before is when I squeezed the sugar cane. So then I started out on this path to say, you know what? Um, already do tea tastings using moringa. We feed the fish moringa at the farm. So it'd be nice if we started bottling a moringa drink that's sweetened with sugarcane. So then I said, okay, that's what I want to do. So then I reached out. So I just happened to be at Craft Cafe. I'm down there and I run into Bob Devin Jones and he's having breakfast with someone. And I give them both a hug. And the guy just says to me, he said, "Oh, tell me a little bit about," or Bob said, "Tell him a little bit about the farm, Carla. Tell him about the farm." And I said, yeah. And so today I'm all, totally excited because I want to figure out what I need to know about how do we bottle our sugarcane juice with moringa, etc. He said, he said, write that up. I'd like to fund that for you. So then
Amazing.
yesterday, I also went to talk to Mike Harding since he has three daughters. And I said, hey, you have three daughters. I would like to
Yeah.
understand what are the I don't knows about how to bottle? I want to be able to bottle this drink. And, what do I need to learn about how to keep things sterile, etc. And he says, you know what, Carla, the easiest way around it is to get a food truck, right? This is all yesterday. I'm telling
Mhm.
you just by the last 48 hours. And then that same funder that was at the table came to the farm to see me today. And we
Mhm.
talked for like not even 5 minutes before I said, yeah, I realize now what I need to be focused on is getting a food truck. Because if I have a food truck, that's where I could do all my production since it's small scale, etc. And he says, oh, then Carla, then we're looking for a food truck, right? So I look at him in the face and I said, tell me a little bit about why you want to help us, why you want to help me. And he said, I'm looking at everything. He said, first of all, I love your energy. So that's what he said. He said, I love your energy. But he said, looking at everything that you've been able to accomplish here, this is something I want to do. And he says, you're doing it. So like, I want to help. But then Bob said, Carla, when you left the table yesterday in front of him, he said, when you left the table yesterday, he said to me, says, I want to help her. So the fact that the work that I do is contagious. Today I got a video
Mhm.
that was sent to me that was shot on Saturday. The person that came in is somebody I knew from St. Pete, and he came in. He had a camera in his hand, and he said, "Hey, you want me to shoot some footage?" I said, "Sure." He actually sent me the completed video today, and he said, "I want you to know," because I called to say thank you. I said, "Wow, this is amazing. This is incredible." He said, I want you to know, like, normally to shoot, I have to be inspired. And I didn't know. I just decided to pull the camera out of the car. He said, and once I got at the farm, and he said, this inspires me. He said, I know you won't, but don't let up. So, I mean, I am affirmed because of who I am, right? How I was raised. But man, I am telling you, if they're haters, they're probably so far in the shadows, I don't see them.
Yeah.
um, because my supporters are so strong. The way my mind works, how I was at Sam's Market today. I just happened to be next door at Papo's getting something to eat. And I said, hey, I'm going to run into Sam's real quick. Go into Sam's. What does the owner say? Carla, good to see. She didn't say Carla. Say, hey, I love what you're doing. I watch your work. And she says, I just want you to know if you ever want to collaborate on something, I would love to collaborate with you in the farm. I said, I live for this. That's all I do all day. I said, I'm on it.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, this is how I move, and this is how I'm moving through the universe at this time in history. And, don't get me wrong. I'm also secured my passport for Guyana again, my dual citizenship, and working on my
No
land
shade.
back home. But, I mean, my love for this community is unquestionable. I don't think I don't think anybody could question it because the impact is real. Um, so I haven't turned back since I left corporate America in 2014. And I haven't turned back. And let's be frank, my children have been the better for it. They really
Yeah.
have, because all they knew before was the expensive vacations, and honestly, my daughter was becoming a brat, and I couldn't believe it, that that's what I was raising.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
when I learned to say to myself, well, like, what are the most important things about you? What makes you who you are?
Mhm.
And I wanted to make sure that I was imparting that on my own children. And the fact that it's being imparted to other children, and my children actually see it and acknowledge it, and have been, without them being able to share me, none of this would really be possible, you know? So
Yeah.
that was a long answer, Christian. Sorry.
I love it. I love it. Laura, do you have any questions you want him?
No, I think I'm good. I'm just like, like you said, I think it'd be hard for you to have haters because you are just like glow positivity and care and like I can feel it, through the connection. So, I mean, I can't imagine you shouldn't have any haters. So, that's what
Yes.
I say.
Well,
Right.
yeah, my aunt normally says if what you tell people is I just really don't have that kind of time to focus on that. I'm too busy focusing on what I'm doing. So I think
Yes.
yeah, I'm just always forward propelling, in other words.
I love it. I love it. So I have a couple more questions if you don't
Sure.
mind.
I
Um,
don't mind.
what are some of the structural or systemic issues you think more people in St. Pete need to be talking about right now?
So I
Mhm.
mean, let's be honest, housing is a problem.
Hmm.
Housing is a big problem. Yeah, housing for sure. Where do our young people get to live? How can we ensure families have stable housing? How can we, it, for, I mean, we've seen this happen in other communities, so I don't understand how we allow it to happen here, but it's happening here, and we
Yeah.
have to be. We're past the point of having to be careful and considerate, but like I don't know that I could afford to keep living here, right? And that's saying a lot. So if we're not careful, we are missing the fact that the asset is actually the people. Like we are the asset,
Yep.
right? We make
Yep.
St. Pete what it is. And when we overlook that, we end up with cookie cutter communities is full of, they don't have the character that we came to live here for. So I think,
Exactly.
housing is very much so at the top of because when you have stable shelter that's not leaking, that you can actually afford to pay, what we're calling affordable housing just isn't affordable for most people at all. And, my upbringing is from the age of 19, I've had my own place. I've never had to have a roommate. And now my daughter was
Mhm.
talking about, yeah, mom, I think I want to have an apartment. And I was like, you're going to have a roommate. And then I had to explain to her what that could mean. That could mean that if your roommate doesn't pay the rent, they're half of the rent, you are also now in jeopardy. So no, it's not as simple as I just want to, rent and have a roommate. So those challenges,
Mhm.
but housing, I would love to see families be able to afford to live and stay here and live close to where they work, etc. I think that's something that's concerning to me. It's also and housing because I work with young people. So I know young people that I work with they make a living wage over $16 an hour, and their family still lives in a storage unit, and that's the reality,
That's just
right?
ridiculous.
So I really want to see us, safety. So I was talking about
Mhm.
how I have my little $8 Timu ring and how I'm enjoying walking. So when you walk in general, so I first I think I first had this awakening when we were all protesting in 2020 and I was doing all this
Mhm.
walking, how much of things that I saw as a walker that I just simply didn't see or observe as a driver. Right. So now I'm walking and I've brought my bicycle back to the farm. So my bike is at the farm and I'm ready to ride, but now I'm walking. So I'm seeing how terrifying it could be to ride my bicycle if I'm riding it on the sidewalk on 18th Avenue. Like every other, if I were to open up one C Click Fix, I'd be opening up 50 for just a 1 block stretch. So safety, when in fact,
Mhm.
for a lot of people, transportation is the bicycle or the your
Exactly.
feet. So I think safety from that vantage point is really important to me that we should be talking about more, like making a walkable city so that we're not polluting the air. I mean, the list is long if we're being honest. Making sure people have
Yeah.
affordable health care, and it turns out affordable health care just isn't about me being seen by a doctor, right? It's about being able
Mhm.
to um better understand how to care for my own health to prevent half the side effects that happen when you get medication that you really can't afford anyway. So, one of the things I did last week was I went Tampa General Hospital has what's known as a food pharmacy. And that food pharmacy, they give, it's called, so it's called Health Park, I think is what it's called. So the food pharmacy is inside the health park, which is a couple of acres. And then the farm part itself is about 1 acre. And they get about 200 referrals per week. And about 60% of those people actually come. And most of it is about preventative care. So you're pre-diabetic. Let's help you with that. And so, I mean, that's where I'm going. That's the direction that I'm trying to go in. The more that I can get us to learn and educate and be able to advocate to have a growing community that's healthy, to me, that's not, oh, now you have to be on the diabetes medication. Now you do have the high blood pressure. No, let's prevent all that. That's what food can do for you. And that's what, like, me leading by example, saying, like, no, I'm walking. Um, so we won't even get into the education system and all, I mean,
Mm. Yeah.
It's a
we won't.
mess.
Bad.
We
It's a
won't.
Yeah.
mess. We'll just say that. We'll just say that. Well, that's all really good points. So just one more question real quick for you, and I think it's an important one that we all need to ask ourselves, and we need to ask each other. How do you think we as a community can better support young people, specifically young people of color, in St. Pete?
Mm. How can we better support? I think stop being afraid of young people. Find ways, find
Yeah.
ways to engage, acknowledge and own why somebody may have a mistrust for you. And it has nothing to do with you. It has to do everything with all the people before you that have treated that young person in a certain way. Right. So let's say, right. Like, so my everyday, like today, I saw a young lady that works with me and I could tell like something was off. So I said, come in, have a seat. I said, what's going on? She said, nothing. I said, something is going on. I could tell something is going on. Before 2 minutes, she breaks down crying, right? She said, oh, my father died 7 years ago because he had a heart murmur and he ended up having a heart attack. She said, and today I found out while at school that my grandfather is in the hospital with the same condition. She said, I was supposed to go in December, but I don't think I can go now. And so we had this whole conversation about how do you, what about if you wrote a letter to him? Do you think you can get your aunt on the phone? Um, you know, so I think listening, like I talked about, being observant, being helpful, um, not not giving or sharing, wanting anything in return. Just so it's probably some of the most important advice I give people. Build relationships just for the sake of building relationships. Don't build relationship because you want something, right? So
Yep.
it's the most helpful way to move through life, honestly.
It
Honestly.
really is.
So I think most people they wait until they need something. If you want to call it political parties, wait until they need your vote, and then everybody's not pandering to
Mhm.
certain things. But I think just for example, one young man that works for me, he's now a pro boxer, right? He's trained by Antonio Tarver. There's not one person that comes through the farm, honestly, and he works an earlier shift. So normally when I have my meetings, it's all before all the teens are there. When I introduce him, I also say, like a run on sentence, hey, he just turned pro. His next fight is November 7th. I'm going, it's down in
I know.
South Florida, right? Because, yes, he's working with me, but also this is something he's doing, he's passionate about. So he can see that even
Mhm.
though he works with me and the work he's doing, I care about, I also care about him as a person. And this is so when I'm in the stand screaming, losing my voice, he's gonna say, "Well, dang, my family is here, but also Miss Carla's here," right?
Exactly.
So I think just build organic, non-forced relationship with people. One of the questions I used to ask people is I would say, um, "How many people have ever been to your house of a different race or culture?"
Mhm.
Right? We can also
Yep.
say, and people will say, I have black friends. Really? Who
I
are they?
hate that.
I don't mean black
Yeah.
coworkers that y'all go to lunch with.
Right.
I mean, genuinely, right? And so,
Mhm.
like, my friendship base is very diverse, but I come from a diverse culture, and I come from a culture that clearly lets me know and reminds me that I'm a queen, I'm an empress. I mean, my own children think that's what my daughter told me very early. I need a queen size mattress, mom, because I'm a queen. If you're a queen, what am I? Like, they go,
I love
mom.
that.
She goes, oh, mom, you're an empress. I was like, okay, all right,
Okay.
Love
must
it.
be good. Um, so I just think, yeah, talk to
Connection.
connect, make sure, like, even though I talked about having two children as being important for people to know, I never honestly, so I had one child when I was 28, right before my 28th birthday, and the other one the day before my 36th birthday. And the entire time I was pregnant with both children, I always saw them as adults, as humans, as not as babies, right? So, I mean, I see them as people that I was
Yeah.
fortunate enough to be responsible for carrying. So I just think, find direct ways to contribute, and so it doesn't have to be, oh, like, yeah, because I'm at the turkey giveaway and we're doing another backpack giveaway. Find one person that could use your help and help that one person. And if they mess you over, that's okay. Find another person that you can help and help them, and so on and so
Mhm.
forth.
I
I
love that.
love that. I love that.
I love that a lot.
Okay, I think we'll hop into our final segment here, which is our shutdown or shout out segments. If for our listeners that remember, it's our there's something
Mhm.
cool and awesome you want to shout out, or then we'll go ahead and give you a moment to talk about that. Or if there's something lame and boring and not so awesome, we'll go ahead and shut that down too. So
Mhm.
like I have a shout out. We do try to sandwich them a little. So I know I'm having a shout out. Do we know who's having
Got a little bit of an in between.
in between?
And I have one of each.
All right,
Okay.
perfect. All right,
You go
so
first then, Carla.
yes.
So my shout out is I want to shout out St. Pete Run Fest because they're the largest run in St. Petersburg. They really have consistently supported the farm, and they're constantly asking, "How can we help? What do you need?" The first when we had no electricity and they came and said, "Carla, how can we help? We love what you're doing." And I said, "Well, I don't know, I need a generator," and they bought us a generator, and that relationship has continued and grown. So I really want to shout out Ryan and St. Pete Run Fest. And also because a lot of races that I've ever seen, and I'm no runner, right? But,
Mhm.
all the focus is placed on the winner. And RunFest does the most incredible thing. So I'm not a runner. I don't know if this happens in other places. But when I tell you the last person or the last five people to finish the race, there is a big finish line party. And so I made sure I told them, um, don't put me back in the bag check on Sunday. I love being at the finish line to celebrate, and because I love the way they do that. So I totally want to give St. Pete Run Fest a shout out for their work and their consistency, etc. The shutdown is,
Mhm.
let me be honest, I was blown away by South St. Pete and how they stood with the woman who was not treated properly at the corner store on MLK and 18th Avenue. And that woman sits out there in a chair now with a megaphone. And so I say for that store, if they shut it down, so be it, because the lesson is going to be learned and everybody's going to understand that you have no idea who one person is. So just treat that person with respect, especially if your
Exactly.
business is um, hinges on support from this community. I would highly suggest you act like you appreciate it. So I would say shut that down until they can act right.
Yes. Agree.
Absolutely. So I guess I can go ahead and go because, like I said, mine's a little in between. So we'll finish off with a positive one. Um, I got to mention MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Right?
I don't want to give her too much credit because we know who she is,
Right.
right? But the fact that she stood up today and went against her own party and is now saying that she wants a deal for ACA subsidies to be extended, I do have to just shout that out because that is something that is very, very important. And it's about time that Republicans are getting it in their head that the majority of Americans support public health care, public funded health care. It's a
Basic,
a
right?
basic human right.
Mm-hmm.
And we need more people. As much as I disagree with Marjorie Taylor Greene on so many issues,
Mm-hmm.
we need more people to step up like that. And I'm thankful that she's doing it, and I hope that she continues and it's not just performative. I hope that she is actually going to fight for it. And we'll see what the Republicans do over the next couple of weeks. But this shutdown needs to end, and these ACA subsidies need to continue.
Yeah, no, I think that's legit from her because she is partnered with Josh Hawley in the Senate to get a deal passed for the subsidies to continue, which is just like, what? Okay, this timeline keeps getting weirder.
Yes.
Anyway, we'll finish up on mine, which, like, yes, mine's positive, but in a petty way. I want to shout out our favorite AOC and the way that she just can say anything and just living rent free in those people's heads because she made one joke about Stephen Miller's height and Fox News flipped for 24 hours, could not do anything but defend Stephen Miller and his manhood. They didn't talk about the government shutdown. They didn't talk about the Gaza peace deal. They didn't talk about any of it. They were just like, Stephen Miller is a cool guy, man. You know, his wife calls him a sexual matador, which is like so gross. But anyway, no, so that's my shout out is just, you know, AOC keeping it petty and them falling for it every time.
I love it. I love it. Well, this has been an amazing episode. Carla, thank you so much for coming on. Before we let you go, do you want to give us any information about any upcoming events? Where can people find you? Where can people follow you?
Yep. Follow me at Connect with Carla B on Instagram, Carla Bristol on Facebook, St. Pete Youth Farm, website.org, or St. Pete Youth Farm on Facebook and Instagram. If it's one thing we're not shy about is, you know, making sure like people are aware of what we do, where we are, and what we have going on. So we always have a monthly calendar. Our Big Farm Oween is free for the community to ensure that kids have a place that's safe inside South St. Pete, that they don't have to go to Tyrone Mall or Old Northeast to get candy. They can get candy right at the farm. And have a spooky house and a spooky experience right there for free for families. So that's important. Our open mic is happening on October 30th. And that's pretty cool because if you sing, if you do poetry, if you're an actor and you want to be on stage, there's a $500 prize for the winner of that particular open mic, which is our 5th open mic. And you will also get to perform at St. Pete Run Fest. So it's like a big opportunity to not only just perform on stage at the Youth Farm, big stage, but to also win $500 and perform at St. Pete Run Fest. So those are two of the many things. You want to do something for MLK Day of Service? We are at the farm. We're open. And I think this is our 5th or 6th annual MLK Day of Service. So come through. Kwanzaa, we're first night of Kwanzaa. It's our 12th year hosting that. So there's always something to do. So just plug in with us.
Yep. And we will definitely tag you in the Youth Farm in the show notes and when we post on social. So don't you worry about that. We'll get your name out there too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, like Christian said, thank you again for joining us. It's been a lovely night talking to you. Please remember to like and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. We're at For St. Pete's Sake. Subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen. And if you could leave a rate and review, that would help promote us on the algorithm. We'll be back next week with more stories from people doing the hard work to make our community better. Until next time, for St. Pete's sake, keep pushing for change.